So Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac, his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the two of them went together. But Isaac spoke to Abraham, his father, and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am, my son." Then he said, "Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" And Abraham said, "My son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering." So the two of them went together. Then they came to the place of which God had told them, and Abraham built an altar there, and placed the wood in order, and he bound Isaac, his son, and laid him on the altar, upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. The Binding of Isaac was created by Edmund Macmillan and Florian Himsel in 2011. It was later remade as The Binding of Isaac Rebirth on November 4th, 2014 with the help of Team Nicholas. Rebirth became one of the biggest roguelike indie games to exist, quickly garnering attention from people all over the world. As time passed, new expansions were added as paid DLC, which brought more content to the game. And the final DLC in 2021, Repentance. With a 10-year anniversary and the online update here, we'll take a retrospective look into the elements of what makes Isaac so special. In this video, I'll be working alongside my best friend Miguel, the guy who got me hooked on Isaac.
Hi guys, my name is Miguel and I'll be working on this video with Camilo. The video will be split into chapters, so feel free to skip to any part you like. We'll go over a short summary of the story, but if you want a more comprehensive look, I recommend watching this video by 2 left thumbs. Just a heads up, the story of Isaac contains heavy topics listed on screen, so viewer discretion is advised. With that being said, let's start the video.
Isaac and his mother lived alone in a small house on a hill. Isaac's mother was a devoted Christian who one day heard the voice of God, telling her that her son was corrupted with sin. She took away all of Isaac's belongings, then with another voice from God, locked him in his room. God tested Isaac's mother one final time by demanding her to sacrifice Isaac to prove her devotion to him. Isaac, observing this, attempted to escape. He then noticed a hidden trap door. As his mother burst through the door, Isaac threw himself into the unknown depths below.
The story presented through the game starts with Isaac wandering down the many floors of his house. Floors contain many enemies resembling himself and items reflecting his childhood. As the floors continue, he eventually reaches the area where his mom is. In a courageous battle, Isaac conquers the fight against his mom and wins. After getting past mom for a second time, a new floor opens to Isaac known as the womb. In the depths of the womb is mom's heart. When he defeats mom's heart, Isaac finds a chest containing several items. Isaac defeats mom's heart 11 more times, finding a dead version of himself in 2 new areas. If he goes to Sheol, he fights Satan. If he goes to Cathedral, he fights himself. Along his multiple journeys, Isaac continues to find new items and personalities within himself. In the Blue Womb, he fights Hush. He can either visit the Dark Room to fight the Lamb, or the chest to fight Blue Baby. Behind the locked door lies a fight with Mega Satan, and in the Void, Isaac remembers his journey as he fights his own delirium. With each boss that Isaac fights, a new ending is unlocked. With each new ending, the true story becomes clear.
If Isaac goes alternate floors and finds his mom's knife, he's able to traverse the corpse and fight against his mother. Once he beats his mother, he finds a strange door appear in the depths. If Isaac grabs the Polaroid or negative and places it in the door unlocks. In the final room, he finds his dad's note, allowing him to begin an ascension. During this ascension, he remembers the fight between his mom and dad. The argument climaxes when the dad leaves home for good, taking his regrets with him. Isaac arrives at his old home, now barren and broken. He remembers the same room he went down the trap door in. After resting in his mom's bed, he wakes up to a nightmare. In the living room, he fights Dogma, the doctrine belief of Christianity. When defeated, Isaac cycles through his true nature and gains wings. The beast appears behind him, summoning 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. After taking down all of them one by one, Isaac confronts the beast. In a climactic battle, Isaac conquers the beast and begins to ascend. He feels his weights drop as he remembers his past. He recalls the bad nights, but also the good days he's had. He sees happy memories of his life. And then, he sees nothing.
Are you sure this is how you want this story to end, Isaac? You're the one writing it. It doesn't have to end this way. Here, How about we tell it a different way? Maybe a happy ending?
Okay, Daddy.
Good. Are you getting sleepy yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so Isaac and his parents lived in a small house on the top of a hill.
The story presented throughout the game isn't fully accurate to the real story. Isaac lived with his two parents. It's assumed that they were a poor but happy family. In an attempt to provide for his family, the dad started to gamble using his family savings. Mom and dad got into a lot of fights. With mom being a devoted Christian, she tried to help him by having him atone for his sins. However, the dad had no interest in religion.
Let his light inside you cleanse your soul.
Insane. You are taking this too far.
Isaac witnessed all these fights, and when the dad left them for good, Isaac blamed himself for the divorce, seeing himself as sort of a demon or devil. Because Isaac was close to his dad, his absence really took a toll on him. In the meantime, mom started to use religious programs as a coping method for her divorce. However, she let herself be consumed through religious fanaticism, creating a negative effect on her and her son. In an attempt to prevent Isaac from becoming like his father, mom took away his toys to save him from sin. When Isaac did things she didn't like, she would get mad and take action against him in a twisted attempt to help him. Isaac believed that the reason his mom was acting so erratic was because God was telling his mom to punish the devil within him. He believed that one day his mom was going to kill him, something that was completely made up from his imagination. So he went down the basement to escape, but the basement never existed. In reality, Isaac locked himself in a toy chest and suffocated to death. Through his final moments in delirium, the whole game is set up in his mind. Mom, not being able to find her son, set up missing posters everywhere to find him. It wasn't until possibly years later where Isaac's bones were finally found by mom. Isaac's soul, unable to find resolve, was forced to live in purgatory for eternity.
The story of the Binding of Isaac is very sad. I think the opening cutscene does an amazing job at introducing the main idea of the game without giving the player too much information. It's short, simple, and gets the job done. The other cutscenes as well further give context to the story behind the game, and it gives the player the pieces to assemble the story. It's cool when you beat Mom for the first time, you get a bunch of new unlocks. You think that's where the game ends, but a lot of new stuff is added on. The fight against Mom's heart is cool as well, but I really don't like how you have to beat that boss 10 more times to progress the story. It makes sense in Flash Isaac since it's the final boss of the game before Wrath of the Lamb, but in Rebirth it just feels tedious. Both Shoal and Cathedral are great new areas added onto the game. I personally like Cathedral much more than Shoal since it looks nicer, the music is better, and the enemies suck less. The fact you have to beat both Isaac and Satan 5 more times really sucks. I feel like it's sort of unnecessary since any major boss afterwards only requires you to beat them once to unlock new content.
Their presentation of the polar and negative is also well written. Both of them are opposites of each other while complementing each other as well. The Polaroid sees Isaac take a more introspective look in his life and how he got to the point to where he's at. It's a more pure side of the story where Isaac leaves his blame behind in a sense, thus fighting a pure version of himself in the cathedral. The final boss of the chest, being Blue Baby, also represents Isaac coming to terms with his own death, with the ending showing his memories before he passes away. One interesting fact is that you can actually see Isaac's shadow casted over the chest floor moments before he would jump in. The negative sees Isaac taking full blame for everything that has happened to him so far in his life. His dad's abandonment, the divorce, and his mom's treatment towards him. He confronts the demons that lie inside of him, defeating Satan and seeing himself no longer worthy of forgiveness, descending further into the darkness and blaming himself as he goes on. The dark room represents the closet his mom would lock him in whenever he would misbehave. The lamb represents a more twisted version of Isaac, one where he was never able to forgive himself for all the tragedy that happened around him, thus becoming a sort of martyr for all evil. The ending, compared to the chest, feels inconclusive, with mom frantically looking for Isaac, but him nowhere to be found. I believe that it was intended for players to go for the negative first, to see a more cynical side of the story, before showing a more positive and conclusive side that gives a partial conclusion to the game. Story held within these two items is just another way the game presents its overall story. Hush represents Isaac's suffocation in the chest. Mega Satan is just a video game final boss, and Delirium are his final moments without oxygen. The ending you get from beating all these bosses are great cutscenes, which help to show more into Isaac's situation. Mother represents the ugly side of how Isaac sees his mom. The mother ending is just sad. I always feel bad for Isaac whenever I watch it. The fight between the horseman and the beast could represent one final confrontation against the truth of everything. And finally, the beast ending is simply amazing. Despite not being canon, it truly feels conclusive to a game that never ends.
The story of Isaac uses a lot of inspiration from the Bible. The name of the game itself comes from the story of Abraham and his son Isaac, one where God tested Abraham to sacrifice his son as a devotion to him. Ironically enough, the story ends with God stopping Abraham and rewarding him for his devotion while also providing a lamb to sacrifice. The religious themes in Isaac is really interesting, something I don't think I've seen talked about much in gaming media. Religious themes derive from Edmund's childhood, as his mom used to restrict him from doing certain activities like playing Magic the Gathering cards since she thinks it's satanic. I also share a personal experience like this, where I wasn't able to do a lot of things as a kid that other kids did, like play Pokemon because of my religion. Religion is a powerful tool that could be used to support or corrupt a person. This absolutely being the case with Mom, as her divorce led her to use religion as a bad coping mechanism. Dogma, my favorite boss in the game, represents the evangelist preachers from the religious shows Mom watched. They're depicted as being really loud, yelling, and sounding almost crazy. It goes to show how Mom let herself be absorbed by something that wasn't a good influence on her, creating a negative effect on her and her son as well. Another sad detail of the story which I liked is how Mom really cared for her son. After he disappeared, she set up missing posters for her son, looking everywhere until she eventually found him. One small detail which made me realize there's much more to the game than it seems is when you beat Mom, she yells Isaac's name. Knowing the context, you assume she's yelling out of anger or spite for her son. However, if you put in the possible context that this is her yelling for her son as she mourns his death and finds his body in the chest, the scream, despite being the same, sounds somber, almost like a cry.
Speaking of Mom, something I really like about the game is how there's really no good or bad guy here. The mom isn't a bad guy, since although her actions are sometimes villainous, she is greatly exaggerated in the mind of Isaac. She's a broken woman going through a tough divorce trying to do the best for her son and his future. On the other hand, the dad isn't a bad guy either. Even though he left his family behind, he felt as if he was doing more harm than good while also deeply regretting leaving his son, Isaac. You can argue that the real bad guys here are the evangelists, as it caused Mom to fall into a rabbit hole obsession, but I digress. A few final things that I would like to point out is how the story is told. The game isn't straight up with answers. It likes to share pieces of the full context through cutscenes, items, or even enemies. Some parts of the story are black and white, while others are pretty big as to what's going on. It's really interesting to see how the whole game takes place in Isaac's mind. It's a crazy plot twist I did not see coming. One last thing I would like to mention is the character selection screen. There are multiple characters which you can cycle through with the text stating, "Who am I?" This statement doesn't just mean which character are you playing, it's Isaac speaking to himself wondering just who he really is. He views himself as Isaac, but also a devil, a liar, a killer, and everything in between. The story is extremely somber, one with heavy themes and topics which are really well put together.
The Binding of Isaac has a really complex and difficult but satisfying gameplay. It's a really gameplay heavy game, with each DLC improving upon the mechanics. We'll mostly focus on repentance, however most of what we say applies to all the other updates as well.
When you start a run, you play as Isaac and begin on the basement floor. The first room floor contains a visual tutorial on how to play the game. Move with WASD, shoot tiers with the arrow keys, press E to use a bomb, and press the spacebar to use your active item. As you move through the rooms, they're each randomly generated, with some containing enemies. The doors are locked until you kill every enemy within the room, with the possibility of a pickup being summoned. Pickups include coins, hearts, keys, cards, pills, and bombs. They each can be used to either heal, benefit, unlock, or help the player on their adventure. Each floor has a treasure, shop, and boss room. Treasure rooms contain one random item. There are two main types of items, passive and active. Passive items give the player a passive effect, something that applies to them on their journey. Meanwhile, active items work upon activation and can be swapped with other active items, often requiring a certain charge to be used, with clear one hostile room counting as one charge. Shop rooms can contain items, pickups, or a donation machine. Donation machine works by taking one coin at a time until it reaches the max of 999, with the possibility of jamming. The more you donate to the machine, the more items and store upgrades you unlock. Boss rooms have one random boss, which once beat drops one random item. When the boss of the floor is defeated, a trapdoor opens and you're able to continue downward. That's the basics of the first floor. The second floor is where things start getting complicated.
The treasure and shop doors are now locked, requiring a key pickup to open them. Other rooms may possibly appear as well. The sacrifice room lets Isaac lose 1 heart for a reward. There's 12 set rewards that you can always get when you play the sac room. The curse room has Isaac sacrifice half a heart to get in and half a heart to get out, with the possibility of gaining an item or chest. Libraries require a key to unlock and give 1 to 6 books, which are active items. The vault requires 2 keys to get in, but can give pickups or sometimes an item. The dice room costs 2 keys and gives a random effect depending on what dice number you get. The arcade costs 1 coin to enter and lets Isaac gamble. Awesome. Challenge rooms open up when your red health is full and lets you fight for a reward. On the other hand, boss challenge rooms open up when you have 1 red health and let you fight 2 bosses for an item. Finally, you might encounter mini bosses in a random room, which are always one of the 7 deadly sins. There are a few other important things to go over which could happen throughout a run. Secret rooms are rooms that can only be opened by using a bomb. There's a certain formula that goes to finding one, but they can contain pickups or even an item. Super secret rooms are just like secret rooms, but a bit harder to find. There are always at least 1 of each per floor. There are special rocks with an X on them and a different shade of color known as tinted rocks. Blowing up these rocks can give pickups, with the most common being a soul heart. Soul hearts are similar to red hearts, except once damage is taken, it cannot be recovered without another soul heart. Black hearts work the same, but once a black heart is lost, it deals damage to all enemies in the room. Chests and sacks can contain more pickups or sometimes even an item. Crawl spaces are areas where the player can go under a trapdoor and possibly find an item. Beggars trade coins for other pickups or items, with demon beggars demanding hearts, bomb beggars taking bombs, and key beggars being a scam. Finally, trinkets are similar to passive items, except their effects aren't normally too special and they can be swapped or dropped with other trinkets. At the beginning of every second floor, you always have a 100% devil chance. Every time you take red heart damage, this percentage goes down. If you're able to keep your 100% or get lucky enough, after beating your boss, a strange new door appears. In this room is a devil deal. Devil deals contain items from the devil pool, with each item costing a certain amount of hearts. An important detail about items which we should clarify now are the pools. Each item comes from a different pool. Items in the treasure room belong to the treasure pool, shop items from the shop pool, boss pools, secret room pools, devil pools, and angel pools. Some items can belong to other pools, but most are from their respective areas. Devil deals mostly have good items, which encourages the player to go for them. However, if you skip on your devil deal and go to the next floor, you'll have an increased angel deal chance. The angel chance can lower the same way you lower devil deal, and certain actions like donating to the donation machine or playing the sack room can increase your deal chance. Get lucky enough and an angel deal opens, which lets you pick up 1 item from the angel room for free. Every floor afterwards splits the angel and devil deal chance. If you pick up a devil deal, you cannot go angels, but the opposite does not hold true.
The formula repeats for the following floors. In between these floors, a player might encounter curses that hinder a certain aspect of the game. Curse of the Blind prevents players from seeing what items are in the pedestals. Curse of the Unknown prevents players from knowing their current health. Curse of the Lost prevents players from looking at the minimap. Curse of the Darkness hinders the player's view by making everything harder to see. And finally, Curse of the Labyrinth combines 2 floors into 1 mega floor. When the player gets to the 6th floor, they will have to fight Mom. When you beat Mom for the first time, you start getting a bunch of new unlocks. They're each presented with a little drawing that says, has appeared in the basement. This means that the new thing you've unlocked can be found or seen in future runs. After you defeat Mom, you'll also unlock a new floor which lets you extend your runs. Each Isaac run is randomized. No 2 runs truly feel the same. Each run has their own random seed, which you can enter before you start, but you won't get any unlocks from it. Planetarium rooms can also be unlocked, which give you an item from the planetarium pool. You also unlock new floors as you continue through the game. The womb is similar to the previous floors, except every floor afterward has no treasure rooms, no shops, and you take double damage. 2 floors later, you choose to go either to Cathedral or Shoal. Both are only 1 floor long, with Shoal being a dark, scary floor and Cathedral being a more holy, pure place. You can unlock the blue womb to fight Hush by beating Mom's heart 10 times, the polar by beating Isaac 5 times, the negative by beating Satan 5 times, and unlock the void by defeating Mega Satan once. If you pick up the Polaroid and beat Isaac, you'll be able to go to the chest. Meanwhile, picking up the negative and beating Satan lets you visit the dark room. If you visit the angel room and use a bomb to blow up the angel statue, you'll be able to fight them. If you beat 2 of them, you'll get the key pieces, which give you the key to unlock the door to Mega Satan, a door that's accessible within the chest or dark room. The chest and dark room are pretty much exaggerations of their previous floor, with the void being a combination of all the floors together. Both floors have tons of bosses and items that you can pick up to prepare for the final fight. There are a certain amount of set bosses which always appear per run. On the 6th floor is Mom, 8th floor is Mom's heart, 9th floor is either Isaac or Satan, 10th floor is Blue Baby or Lamb with the possibility of Mega Satan, and 11th floor Delirium with Hush in between. You can also unlock alternative floors, which require a key, bomb, or heart to enter after defeating a boss. In the 2nd level of alt floor, you can pick up knife pieces and use it to fight Mother, another set boss. Beat Mother once to get the Strange Door, which lets you place a Polaroid or negative and begin your ascension towards the final fight, Dogma and the Beast, the final set bosses of the game. Additionally, you can participate in a boss rush if you beat Mom before 20 minutes have passed. 15 waves of bosses await you for an item. You can also visit Hush if you beat Mom's heart under 30 minutes, and Delirium is a random chance depending on the set boss you just beat.
At this point, you would have also unlocked a bunch of new characters to play as. Isaac is the basic, default, and balanced character of them all. Good stats, and when unlocked can start with a D6, a really good active item that lets you reroll other items. Magdalene, unlocked by having 7 or more red hearts at one time, starts with 4 red hearts and is a solid health-based character. Cain, unlocked by having 55 or more coins at one time, is a lucky character who is amazing at gambling. Judas, unlocked by defeating Satan, is a glass cannon who has amazing damage stats but only 1 red heart container. Blue Baby, unlocked by defeating Mom's heart 10 times, is a challenge character who cannot pick up red hearts at all, only being able to use soul or black hearts. Eve, unlocked by not picking up any hearts for 2 floors in a row, has potential to deal a great amount of damage at the cost of taking damage. Samson, unlocked by completing 2 floors without taking damage, is a strong character who gets even stronger the more damage they take. Azazel, unlocked by taking 3 devil deals in one run, is a really fun character who can fly and shoot a mini laser. Personally, he's my favorite character in the game. Lazarus, unlocked by having 4 or more soul hearts at a time, is a weak character who becomes really strong upon death, being able to revive once per floor. Eden, unlocked by defeating Mom's heart, is a luck character who starts with random stats, 1 random item, and 1 random trinket. To balance the character, you can only play as them if you have an Eden token, which you get by beating Mom's heart. The Lost? The Lost is unlocked by dying in a sack room while holding the missing poster. The Lost does not have health. If he gets hit once, he dies with the exception of having a Holy Mantle, which negates damage once in the room, only if unlocked by donating 879 coins to the Greed donation machine. Why 879 coins? I have no clue. He starts with the Eternal D6, similar to the D6 but has a 25% chance to have the item disappear. Lilith, unlocked by defeating Greed mode with Azazel, cannot shoot tears, but starts with a little buddy who shoots tears for her, and a Box of Friends, an active item that duplicates your familiars. She has a lot of potential to be a really strong character in late runs, and is really good in Greed mode. The Keeper, unlocked by donating 1,000 coins to the Greed donation machine, has 2 coins for health, and has to pay for devil deals with coins. Apollyon, unlocked by defeating Mega Satan, is literally just Isaac with a worse active item. The Forgotten, unlocked by, well, it's complicated. You grab a shovel piece, then another, then undig a body to find him. He's really strong and is able to swap between a soul version of himself. Bethany, unlocked by completing a hard mode run using Lazarus without losing his extra life, is another character who has a lot of potential to be extremely powerful late run, with a Book of Virtues and a Wisp to help her out. However, she cannot pick up soul hearts, rather they count towards her active item. And finally, Jacob and Esau. Jacob in Hitbox, unlocked by defeating Mother, lets you control 2 characters at the same time, who have 2 different stats, but both need to survive to play the run.
At this point, there's so much of the game unlocked, but also so much left to unlock. So what's next? Each character has their own unlocks, their own items that you get for defeating set bosses. Every time you beat a set boss using a character, you get a completion mark. For example, defeating Satan with Isaac unlocks Mom's Knife and gives you the Satan completion mark. Bethany the Mother unlocks Revelations. It gives you the Mother completion mark. Completing all these marks as the loss gives you Godhead, and so on. These appear in the post-it note on the character selection screen, showing how much you've done and how much is left. It's a great way to motivate the player to keep going and get all the completion marks for every character. Most completion marks are unlocked by playing the game on hard mode. Hard mode is just harder enemies and less pickups. It's not really that different. Greed mode is 7 floors of pure chaos, 10 waves of enemies and bosses with 1 mega boss fight in the final floor. You get a free item, curse room, treasure room, and a huge shop room with lots of coins to spend wisely. After defeating Ultra Greed, you can donate the rest of the coins to a Greed donation machine, a separate machine from the regular donation one. There's also Greedier mode, unlocked after having 500 coins in the Greed donation machine. This mode gives you less coins and an extra wave of enemies. There's also challenges, special runs where you play a set character and get to a set boss under crazy conditions. Some challenges go from really easy to extremely difficult, with beating each challenge giving you an unlock. Sometimes you'll have to unlock challenges themselves by getting a certain character or an item to play them. Daily runs are similar to challenge runs but less restrictive, with beating a few in a row giving you an achievement. Daily runs restrict you from having mods to keep everybody on an even playing field. Daily runs also focus heavily on score, which is affected by how well you play and how fast you play. Your score can also be seen everywhere throughout the game, but it doesn't really do anything.
By now, you're on the road to Dead God. Dead God is the final achievement in the Binding of Isaac, unlocked by completing all 635 achievements and picking up all 719 items in the game. By now, you'll have also noticed a huge power scale between items. All items are placed on a tier list known as a quality. The quality of the item can be scaled from 0 being the worst to 4 being a run winner. My personal favorite quality 4 is Sacred Heart, damage multiplier plus homing tears and Seraphim progress. Miguel's favorite quality 4 is Sacred Orb, which rerolls quality 0 and 1 items with a 33% chance to reroll a quality 2 item for that run. Certain items count as progress towards a transformation, with 3 of that item group transforming you into different things. For example, 3 Guppy items gives you the Guppy transformation, or 3 Book items gives you the Bookworm transformation. All transformations have their own special stat bonuses. Certain items also create synergies with others, such as Brimstone and Mom's Knife, or Spirit Sword and C-Section. However, there is one important item that we need to mention. The Red Key, unlocked by opening Mom's chest on your first visit home, is an active item which lets you open red doors. While holding this item, or a cracked key, a red outline appears where a door could be. Using this item opens a red room, sort of like a secret room within other rooms. If you use the key wisely, and with a pretty complicated formula, you can find your ultra secret room, a room that has an item from the ultra secret pool, which is literally just a red item. However, the key can also be used to open a secret closet door at home, which unlocks the tainted characters.
See, in Repentance, Edmund thought it was a good idea to add new characters to the game. By new characters, I mean he literally doubled the roster by adding a tainted version of each character. Unlocked by bringing a cracked key or a red key home and opening the secret door, you can unlock the tainted version of that same character you were playing as. They're found in the same closet where Isaac was locked in, that's why they're tainted. The tainted characters have their own unlocks as well and pretty much double the game. Tainted Isaac. Instead of starting with the D6, he has the ability to choose between 2 items within one pedestal. He can only carry up to 8 items at a time. Any other item he picks up afterwards will be dropped, however he can choose what item he wants to drop. Tainted Magdalene. She has the ability to hug enemies. These hugs do 6 times her normal damage. With every enemy she kills, they will drop a half a red heart that disappears quickly. Tainted Cain. Starts with the bag of crafting item. This character's whole thing is that he cannot pick up items, as when he does, they will just turn into pickups. Instead, one has to make the items himself, using 8 pickups from around the floor. Some item recipes are set, while most of them are random based on seed. Tainted Judas. He has the ability to face through enemies with the dark arts. The enemies he kills while using dark arts will give him a small temporary boost to his attack. Tainted Blue Baby. Instead of bombs, he uses shit. Tainted Blue Baby has... Instead of bombs, he uses shit. Tainted Blue Baby has many different shits that have different effects. Tainted Eve. When holding down the shoot button for a while, she will spawn a little clot for the cost of half a heart. These clots are mini familiars that follow her around and do 75% of her damage. Tainted Samson. When doing or taking enough damage, Samson will go into the berserk state for 5 seconds. In this state, Samson receives a boost to his speed and attack, making him kill enemies faster and do an absurd amount of damage. Tainted Azazel. He traits the ability to fly for a longer but thinner brimstone. He can also sneeze on enemies for extra damage. Tainted Lazarus. Starts with the item flip, which lets the player switch between the alive and dead Lazarus. These 2 versions of Lazarus act as their own character, with them having different base stats, health, and items. If a room is clear, a switch between these 2 will happen automatically. This is not part of the script, but I just don't like this character at all. This character is bullshit, and it was badly designed. Tainted Eden. Similar to normal Eden, they will start off with a random selection of items and stats. However, if the player is hit by any enemy, everything the character has will reroll. Tainted Loss. He doesn't start with the Holy Mantle, but instead a Holy Card. A card that gives the player a one-time Holy Mantle use. To compensate for this, Tainted Loss gets better items, which eliminate any items that will not benefit the loss, such as health or flight. He also has a 20% chance to reroll any quality 2 item into one of higher quality. Tainted Lilith. Instead of having your baby shoot for you, you throw your baby at the enemy. Lilith's Jello does contact damage, as well as having homing tears. Tainted Keeper. He has to pay for every item he picks up. However, for every enemy he kills, they will drop a random coin that despawns quickly. He also has better shops, which have items from different pools. Tainted Apollyon. Using his active will suck any item in the room and turn it into a locust that he can use to damage enemies. Tainted Forgotten. He can throw the pile of bones to the enemies to deal massive damage. However, the soul cannot shoot and must pick up the pile of bones if he wants to do damage again. Tainted Bethany. This character is actually broken. Her active item, Lemegathon, makes her spawn wisps similar to the ones from Book of Virtues. However, these whips are temporary items. These items are taken from whatever item pool you're in and can be destroyed. Unlike normal Bethany, Tainted Bethany can only take soul hearts, and whatever red heart she takes go into a charges for Lumegathon. And finally, Tainted Jacob and Esau. Instead of being 2 characters, now it's only 1. However, after some time, the evil version of Esau will spawn. This evil version will try to kill Jacob, and if Jacob gets hit by him, he will turn into a lost without a holy mantle. However, going to a new floor is going to turn Jacob back into his old self. To compensate for this, you're given the item Anima Sola, which stops Esau from moving for 5 seconds and then dashes towards Jacob when released. Evil Esau does heavy damage to any enemies he comes in contact with, even bosses.
At the end of the day, the ultimate goal is Dead God. You have 3 save files of which you could play in. If you get Dead God on all 3 save files, you get a really cool infinity symbol. The Binding of Isaac is a game that has incredibly difficult mechanics but amazing gameplay. Carried by the repetitiveness and dopamine of having a good run, balancing both horrible luck with great skill, The Binding of Isaac has one of the best roguelike game mechanics of all indie games ever.
Isaac is a really good soundtrack, some of the best in indie game history in my opinion. The 2011 soundtrack was composed by Danny Varanowski, a close friend of Edmund and the same guy who composed the Super Meat Boy soundtrack. 2011 soundtrack has this very Flash feeling to it, which makes sense since the game was made using the Flash engine. There are 4 songs that I would like to highlight from this soundtrack. The Binding of Isaac, a great introduction to the series. It has a sort of mystique around it, sounding somewhat melancholic and hopeful at the same time, which encapsulates the theme of the game perfectly. Repentant. It starts off with this ominous and foreboding feeling, then slowly builds up to a more hype but still pretty chill song. It fits the location of the caves perfectly, as this is where the game begins to get harder for the player. Penance. Similar to the caves, it starts off slow and slowly builds up to this combination of guitar, drums, and chiptunes that just sounds good and enhances the gameplay experience. Finally, Sacrificial. This song is Binding of Isaac to its core. This is the game's most popular track, and rightfully so. It incorporates everything I've mentioned so far masterfully into a single song. It helps lure the player into the mysterious world of Binding of Isaac, and it just sounds good as fuck, I can't even lie. Due to creative differences, Danny and Edmund did not work together for the Rebirth soundtrack. In his absence, Edmund brought a longtime friend and Boys of Isaac's dad, Matthias Bossi. He and Ridiculon would compose the soundtrack for all the DLC expansions of many of Edmund's other games. For Ridiculon's Rebirth to Repentance soundtrack, here are some songs that I like. Genesis 22:10. This one feels like a reimagined version of the original game's main theme, which fits the name Rebirth perfectly. Deep Terra Sonata. Although not as iconic as Flash Isaac Sacrificial, this track still has a lot of charm to it, especially like the parts where the guitar riff comes in when entering a room with a lot of enemies. Fundamentum. This is in my opinion one of Ridiculon's best tracks. Again, the guitar riffs that come in when entering a large room is amazing, and I like that you can kinda hear the stove being turned on at the beginning. Termius. A perfect combination of all of Isaac's live motifs put into a song. It really makes it feel climactic. Living in the Light. This theme is perfect in my opinion. The static at the beginning, the distorted vocals of the Evangelist, and the heavy guitar riffs all throughout the song really paints this picture of a corrupted being. Although, there is one more version of Isaac's soundtrack that needs to be talked about. The Anti-Birth soundtrack...
Move out of the way, Miguel. Let me handle this one. The Anti-Birth soundtrack was made by Mudith, and let me tell you, this dude is a genius. Fans love the Anti-Birth soundtrack so much that they made a mod for Repentance which replaced the in-game music with Anti-Births. A mod I cannot live without. Don't get me wrong, both Danny and Ridiculon did an amazing job with the soundtrack. However, Mudith created a timeless masterpiece, one which I personally love so much. Descent is an amazing title theme that feels amazing to listen to every time you boot up the game. Dissension is a great womb theme that makes you feel like you're exploring a new, unknown large area. It also has a sort of space-like feel to it, almost like if it was inspired by Mario Galaxy. Gloria Filio is a great boss theme for what's an intense battle between Isaac and his mom's heart. Innocence Glitched is an iconic basement theme with an incredible beat drop. Meanwhile, Innocence Mangled is a really fitting theme for traversing the deep dark depths of Isaac's mind. Journey from Ajar to the Sky is a calm ass planetarium theme which also plays when you lose the game. It fits well for both and I really like it a lot. Machine in the Walls is my personal favorite Anti-Birth song. Everything from the build up to the sound of the organ playing, this song is video game OST perfection. Outside the Fold is an incredible Cellar theme that just sounds so good to listen to every time you start a new run. Ultimort is a great chess theme. It feels climactic as you wander around Isaac's tomb. Misericord is a heavily underrated boss theme that plays when you fight Isaac. I really love this track, it's amazing. The Hammer of Pompeii is just catchy, I like it. Flashpoint is a really good burning basement theme. It's so good and the intense parts sound great. Foreigner and Zeal is another really underrated song. It fits the flooded caves so good. Invictus is an amazing boss theme that feels so intense during a fight. And finally, All Noise. A beautiful track that combines all the previous ones into one heavy, intense, climactic final song. The song is truly stunning, and the beat drop it has is amazing. From Flash to Rebirth, Anti-Birth, and Repentance, the Binding of Isaac soundtrack is nothing short of astonishing. All of Flash Isaac's art was made by Edmund. The original game's art style has this certain charm to it, which most of Edmund's games have. One thing I've always liked about the game is how Isaac's appearance changed depending on what item he would pick up, with some items barely changing anything while others drastically change how Isaac looks. I think the art style does get held back a little due to the Flash engine not being as powerful as other engines, but for the time being it was really impressive.
Rebirth had a different artistic approach for Isaac, going for a more pixelated look that many indie games had at that time. In many areas, it succeeded, but most of them did not stick the landing. This might be a bold claim to make, but the pixel art for Rebirth was not good in my opinion. Like I said before, some parts were good. Isaac's main character model is a great example of this, as this one enhances Edmund's original vision for the character. But most of them, they just look ugly, man. The versus boss screen is a great example of this. In the original game, the bold lines of the character accentuates them perfectly on the screen. Isaac's drawing was big enough to where you could see the detail, but not too big so the boss could create a clear contrast between them. They were very close to each other, again to emphasize that versus aspect of the fight. Rebirth on the other hand just looks off. Both characters are too far apart, which leaves this weird void in between them. Pixel art for Isaac laying down just looks like a cheap copy of the original one, and it looks way too small compared to the bosses. Another example would be the design of some characters, specifically both Lazarus and Azazel. These two guys were done so dirty in Rebirth, man. Their hair just looks so flat, like if it was just plaster on top of them. The lack of shading and singular color also makes it less appealing. Azazel's horn as well also lacks any detail. It's just kinda there, like it was added as an afterthought. There are countless other examples of the pixel art just being bad. However, they were more than able to make up for themselves with the sprite changes in Repentance.
Repentance changed almost every single sprite in the game, painting it in a new light and making it closer to Edmund's original art style. Both Azazel and Lazarus got a well-deserved glow up. Texture was finally added to their hair and tiny little details giving them more of a personality, making them stand out more. And the boss screen was finally fixed, thank God. They fixed every issue I had with the Rebirth sprites, coupled with tasteful pixel art that just looks amazing, like if it was always meant to be there. This game desperately needed those changes, and overall enhanced the experience of The Binding of Isaac. With Repentance in mind, the game looks absolutely beautiful.
Anti-Birth is a mod that came out December of 2016. The mod added so much content to the game people thought it was the actual After Plus DLC, which came out near the same time. It was made only by 4 people: Kilburn, Not Just Sagittarius, Leather Ice Cream, and Mudeth. It was a wake-up call not just only for the fans, but to Team Nicholas. They realized just how much potential Isaac still had. Edmund loved the mod so much that he hired the 3 modders, with the exception of Mudeth, to work on Repentance. Without Anti-Birth, there would be no Repentance. I think it's really cool not just to see the impact this mod had, but having the creators work on the official game because of it as well. The one huge contributing factor that made The Binding of Isaac so popular are the YouTube videos and the word of mouth. One of the most popular YouTubers that made Isaac big is Northern Lion. His content introduced Isaac to a lot of people, and his casual commentary style inspired a bunch of other YouTubers to do the same. Isaac as well has a very active modding community, with all the mods being free to download off the Steam Workshop.
There are 2 mods I cannot play the game without. External item description gives details into what each item does, trinket, pill, and pretty much everything in the game. It accounts for even synergies and counts the quality of the item. It's so cool. The Specialist mod makes Isaac do the Specialist dance from Persona 4 every time he finds a quality 4 item. It became a huge meme in the community and I love it so much. It's somehow very fitting, and just hearing this song gives me so much dopamine. Also, I really like how 3D the sprites look. They're so cool.
Another cool mod to mention will be Fiendfolio, with the content in this mod rivaling even Repentance. This mod is completely free if you already have Repentance, so if you want to give it a try, you can find it on the Steam Workshop. There are so many other mods like these which add a lot to the game and are very well made out of love and passion from the fans.
I have a theory where the different art styles help tell the truth behind the game. Whenever there's a pencil sketch, almost childlike drawing, that was an imaginary cutscene taking place within Isaac's mind. Meanwhile, any cutscenes that are more rendered and realistic with colored art depict what's actually happening in the real life story. There are a few exceptions to this, like the Dogma or Greed cutscene, but I think it might be real.
Edmund has a Twitter in which he often does Q&As. In them, he debunks multiple theories such as, is Isaac really dead or does he have a sister? Due to the lack of items introduced in Afterbirth Plus, in between that and the release of Repentance, there were a few free updates known as booster packs. These booster packs added a few items to the game, with one even adding the Forgotten. Funny enough, one of the booster packs had an item from Antibirth, the school bag, before Repentance was even released. The Binding of Isaac is greatly influenced by the NES game of Zelda, with a similar top-down view perspective and cross-space referring to the game. Guppy is based on Edmund's cat, with Cricket and Tammy also being cats Edmund used to own. As I mentioned in the soundtrack section, Matthias Bossi of Ridiculon is the voice of Isaac's dad. But did you guys know that both Mom and Isaac are voiced by Matthias' wife and kid? His wife also does the vocals of some of the songs, which is really cool.
Every time you beat a run, you get the ending cutscene followed by credits. The credits of the game look really cool. I love how everyone involved in the game is drawn in the Isaac style. It's so cute, and we actually used this as inspiration once to credit ourselves on a project we made together. The blank has appeared in the basement note you get every time you unlock something is very cool. They look so personalized sometimes, and I just love it a lot. Isaac also started off in a game jam, which I think is a cool fun fact since a lot of indie games I love also started in a game jam. In between floors, there are a few different cutscenes that play. Each cutscene gives little details into Isaac's life and are also really silly. Our favorite is the one where Isaac gets the middle finger from a cloud for no reason.
The game has a stats section which includes the items, endings, secret, and the bestiary. Each of these sections are really nice as it lets you scroll through what you unlocked, seen, achieved, and what is left. In the game's code, there's a debug menu that allows you to do a bunch of cool stuff in the game. We have been using the debug menu throughout this video. The Binding of Isaac has some really good sound effects, sometimes disturbingly good. The noises range from cool explosions to growling monsters and squishy bits. The sound effects were really well made in this game. The settings menu allowed you to view your stats on the left in great detail. Honestly, I think the game should have this setting on from the start, as knowing your stats is really important. I also like to use this mod that makes my pause menu look less intrusive.
Isaacle is a really cool website I love to play with. It's inspired by the game Wordle, where you guess an Isaac item and get hints based on how close you are to the answer. I really recommend you give it a try for yourself as it's really fun to play every day. Back in 2010, PETA made a game against Edmund titled Super Tofu Boy, making light of how Edmund's main character was a literal cube of meat. Edmund clapped back by adding Tofu Boy into the game but making him the weakest character. However, PETA doubled down and released a game titled Kitten Squad in 2015. It's a really bad Isaac ripoff with clunky ass moves and a strange, traumatizing story. It's funny because I used to play this game when it came out on the PS4 without knowing it was inspired by Isaac. I was a poor kid who saw a free game on the Play Store and ended up being traumatized by an Isaac ripoff.
Edmund, as the creator of many other games apart from Isaac, has decided to include some of these games in Isaac as Easter eggs. The most clear ones are the Super Meat Boy ones, with a total of 4 items. Time Fuck, Gish, and Finger are some of the other games he has mentioned in Isaac.
Edmund also released a sort of prequel to Isaac known as The Legend of Bumbo. It's a completely different game with different mechanics and story, but it does tie in with the lore of Isaac. The Binding of Isaac 4 Souls is a Kickstarter funded project that turned Isaac into a card game. Edmund went on Twitter and collaborated with multiple different artists for the card game, which I think is really cool. I don't know much about it, but I think it's neat and would love to own it someday.
My experiences with the game, right? I learned about the game when I was around 7 or 8. I was watching this one YouTuber that I really liked. His name is Day Gamer. He usually used to upload like Minecraft Let's Plays, but I think on one day he just uploaded a Binding of Isaac Let's Play. I think it was the Flash version, right? So I click on it and I see him playing this game and it looks really cool. So like I decided to give it a try, right? But then like for me back then the game was like super expensive, right? I didn't have that much money, even though it was like what, $3, $5, $7. But for me $7 was a lot, right? So the best course of action for me was I pirated Flash Isaac, right? And I started playing it from there. And I found out that there was like a better version called Rebirth. So I also pirated that one. And I played it a lot. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I played a lot like around 2015 also when like Rebirth came out, or like when Rebirth was like really big. So I used to watch a lot of like English speaking YouTubers like Huts, Tier Grace, Northern Lion. I didn't really understand what they were saying, but like it was just fun watching them because like they played the game and I played the game. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I kept playing for a while. I stopped playing until I think Afterbirth came out. And when Afterbirth came out, I also pirated the game again because I have money also. But I played Afterbirth for not that long actually. I think I just played it for like a week. I learned about like the Keeper ARG and everything, and I thought that was like really cool. And then I just stopped playing the game for like I want to say 2 years. And then around 2017, I was wondering how like the game was doing. So I go on YouTube, I search up Binding of Isaac like new update, and I see that this update called After Plus has come out. All I really did was I just looked at the new ending, like the Delirium ending, and that's it. And like I watched that and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I didn't watch any Isaac related stuff for the rest of the year. And I think 4 years later, 2021, I also, like, curiosity just hit me. I was like, damn, I haven't played Binding of Isaac in a while. I wonder how the game is doing. And I saw this one video on YouTube. I think it was called Why the Binding of Isaac Repentance was so great. And I was wondering, like, wait, what's repentance? So I watched the video. The guy just basically explained how, like, this DLC fixed everything that was bad with the game beforehand, and it just made it like the ultimate Isaac experience. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I started watching like more Isaac related content until then. All of 2022, I also, like, during the summer of 2022, actually I was really close to buying the game myself because I was watching a lot of Lazy Madman back then, and like I would just like watching his videos before like going to school or going to work. I thought it was pretty cool. And then in 2023, for my 18th birthday, my mom gave me some like extra money, like around $50. So I said, you know what? Why don't I just play Isaac? Because like now I actually have the money to buy the actual game instead of pirating it. So I did. So I went on Steam and I bought the game. I bought Isaac and I played it. I enjoyed it. It's really good. I was trying to get Dead COD before I graduated high school, but unfortunately that was impossible. This game has too much shit going on, bro. I got like 95% done with the game, but yeah, I still play a game from time to time, but yeah, it's very fun.
When I was younger, back in, I want to say 2019 or around that time, I knew about Isaac a little bit. I used to watch videos based on it, but I just never paid attention to it. It never grasped my interest. I also think roguelikes weren't really my type of game to play, so I just never played it. It wasn't until one day in high school when I was hanging out with Miguel, and because I used to tell him a lot about the religious views my mom used to have on me and how I couldn't do things like play Pokemon because they're pocket monsters and monsters are from the devil or whatnot, he called me Isaac one day out of nowhere, and I was so confused. I didn't know who this Isaac guy was or like what he meant, and he explained to me that, like, you know, Isaac was with his mom and his mom was very Christian. She put these like restrictions on him. He was like, dude, you're Isaac. You're literally him. And after being called Isaac for a long while, I did a little bit of research and noticed that it was a pretty interesting game. And I love indie games. I'm a sucker for them. So I pirated the game to see if it was worth buying. Let me tell you, I sucked at it so much. I was really bad. I mean, like, you know how normally you play the game for the first time, there's like, you don't know what every item does, you don't know the mechanics, none of that. No, it's not just that. I couldn't dodge for shit. I was horrible at the game. Not just that, but I was extremely unlucky too. I didn't get a single key for the first run I had, and I remember live streaming it to Miguel on Discord, and it was like, he thought it had to do something with the fact that I pirated the game because I literally had cursed the keys. I had no keys whatsoever. And although it was really hard, I think I really started to enjoy the mechanics and started to like see that there's something much more deeper to the game than just what it's presented to you at first, and I found it very hard but also fun. I had no idea what was going on, but I was mostly just enjoying playing the game in the moment. I mostly also started to learn more about the game mechanics when Miguel got the game on Steam, since he family shared it to me so I could play it legit, but I also mostly just watched him live stream it to me because he was much better at the game than I was. And there would be times where after class, when we have nothing else to do, we'd hit each other up on Instagram or Discord and be like, yo, Isaac stream? And he's like, yeah, Isaac stream. And then we also have this phrase between each other where we would say one more little cheeky Isaac run, and we were addicted to the game, to be honest. When I was finally able to play the game for myself on my own on Steam legit, I started playing for actual unlocks. Because before, since I pirated the game and I really wanted to play it on Steam, I just stopped playing it and mostly watched him play it. But once I actually got the game now on my hands and my save file is going to be on the Steam cloud forever, I knew that this was the time to finally, get good at the game. But since I suck so much, I started playing a lot of Azazel on normal mode with the Almighty Seed. Which, if you don't know, the Almighty Seed is a seed that literally you can't take damage. You just can't take damage, but you also don't get any unlocks because you're playing with a seed. So I was just playing for fun at that point. I played a lot of Isaac mostly during my classes, I think, because this was all taking place during senior year, by the way. And in senior year, I had these couple really boring classes or just classes that I guess I already knew a lot about or just didn't pay most attention to it because I was just an academic weapon. Classes where just I had a lot of free time with, and I spent a lot of that time just playing Isaac because it was a really fun game and I loved playing it. I also started watching a lot of Lazy Madman. I forgot who put me on that guy, but whoever did, God bless them, because I love Madman, and to this day I still watch a lot of his content. He's a really cool dude and a huge inspiration to me as well. After a while of realizing that I wasn't really unlocking anything in the game, I started challenging myself a bit more, playing new characters and only playing hard mode since that's where you get most unlocks. But after a while, I think I dropped the game mostly because I just sucked at it and I wasn't really unlocking anything or getting anything from it. That was until around 3 or 2 months later when I did a random Blue Baby run in the college library nearby and I got the D6 out of nowhere and I was absorbed straight back into Isaac. It was back to my Isaac phase, which I played for maybe the next 2 or 3 months, but then after a while I got burnt out of the game because it just felt a little bit too repetitive to me at the time, and I was also having a huge skill issue as well. And then a couple months later, after I settled into college and everything, I realized, oh shit, this game exists and this is a very fun game that I love to play, and a game that I've also studied a lot intensively. I'm no good at it, but I'd love to get good at it. So, and then I was like, you know, I have a little bit of free time after class, I could go back to playing Isaac, and I started playing it a little bit by bit, getting new unlocks again because it's fun. I love the game.
I'm gonna get the flight, okay? Oh shit, right. You need this so hard. I'm gonna get the flight, okay?
What does the noose do?
It gives me flight. Get it?
Oh, admin, you clever bitch. Let me get flight. I want to get flight.
Yeah, awesome, yeah.
Here's the main question. Would The Binding of Isaac still hold up 10 years later? Let me put it this way. If the Flash version came out, then no, it would not. If the Rebirth version came out, then maybe it'll survive. However, if Repentance came out today, then yes, absolutely would hold up 10 years later. I would like to use this section real quick to talk about the fact that the video is titled Rebirth 10 years later, but we're mentioning Flash to Repentance. We decided to format the video this way since we feel like even though it's Rebirth's 10-year anniversary, the game wouldn't be here without Flash or have as big of an impact without Repentance. Also, we both just love talking about The Binding of Isaac and wanted to mention everything from start to end and in between. Can you blame us? With that being clarified, this is why we believe the game would and would not survive 10 years later.
Flash Isaac is heavily held back by its game engine. While having good visuals and great soundtrack, the gameplay just feels rough. With the final boss being Blue Baby, there's really not much to do after beating a game, unless you want to get Platinum God. It's a really difficult game with honestly not a lot going for it. Meanwhile, Rebirth 2 After Replus is a different story. While it reworked a lot of gameplay mechanics, and honestly it made it feel a lot more clean, it still has its moments where the game just feels sloppy. The music is still good though, but the art style looks up, especially compared to Flash Isaac. It allowed for modding, which still carries the game a lot to this day. While it did add more to the game after Blue Baby, the difficulty might deter people from coming to the game. However, Repentance is just perfect. Right off the bat it fixed so many of the sprite issues, which made the game look so much more appealing. The soundtrack is truly amazing, the pinnacle of all Isaac, and the gameplay mechanics are perfected to a T. The game feels amazing to play and everything works together so smoothly. The content of the game is heavily expanded upon, with not just new bosses in the ending, but literally double the character and items. And it makes sense though, since this is the final update and it came out just 3 years ago. Everything about the final update is amazing and will definitely hold up to itself 10 years later.
The Binding of Isaac is a masterpiece. From Flash to Rebirth and Repentance, the game has been through multiple trials and error until where it stands today.
The game tells the story of a broken family, exploring the theme of religion through its use of gameplay. With an amazing soundtrack, visual style, and game mechanics, Isaac has stood the test of time and it became one of the most influential indie games to have come out in the last decade. While Flash and Rebirth will have some trouble if released today,
The Binding of Isaac Repentance is an amazing game, one which still holds up 10 years later. Thank you so much for watching the video. I had a lot of fun scripting this with Miguel and editing it. I'm glad I was able to make a video about Isaac since it's recently become one of my favorite games of all time. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and join my Discord server. Miguel also has a YouTube channel. He doesn't post anything on it, but he likes soccer and it would be really funny if you guys subscribe to him. With that being said, thank you so much for watching again. Comment, like, subscribe, and if you don't mind me, I'm going back to playing Isaac.